You know that feeling, right? When you're stressed out? That heart pounding, everything's too much feeling? Well, today we're going to peel back the curtain on what's really going on inside your body in those moments. We're going way beyond the feeling, deep into the biological story that stress is writing inside your very cells.
So let's ask the big question. What even is stress? It's so much more than just a bad day. As we're about to see, it's a powerful biological chain reaction, one that can physically change your brain, your body, and, believe it or not, maybe even the biology of your kids.
So, here's the journey we're about to take. We'll start with the basics, your body's internal alarm system. Then we'll see how that alarm can actually remodel your brain. From there, we go even deeper to how stress can rewrite your genetic code, put your entire body under siege, and get this, how it can even echo through generations. Ready? Let's dive in.
Okay, first things first. At the very heart of your body's stress response is something called the HPA axis. The easiest way to think about it, it's your body's central command, its own internal emergency broadcast system. When it senses danger, real or imagined, it blasts out an alert to your entire system to get ready for action. And this is how that chain reaction works. It's like a perfect little domino effect. First, your brain's threat detector, the hypothalamus, sends out a chemical signal. That signal hits the pituitary gland, which is kind of like the dispatch center. It fires off another hormone down to your adrenal glands. And that's the final step. The adrenals release the big one, cortisol, the main stress hormone. It's this beautiful, lightning-fast cascade.
And all of this happens in the blink of an eye. You know that feeling? Your heart pounding, your muscles getting tense? That's cortisol flooding your system, giving you a massive surge of energy to fight or flee. It's a brilliant system for short-term survival. But here's the million-dollar question. What happens when that alarm bell gets stuck in the on position?
And that question leads us straight to your brain, and to what you could call the dark side of one of its most amazing features, neuroplasticity. You know, we usually think of the brain's ability to change and adapt as this wonderful thing. It's how we learn and grow. But the thing is, your brain is remodeled by all of your experiences, and that includes chronic stress.
Just look at this incredible trade-off your brain makes. Think of your neurons like little trees with branches. Well, under chronic stress, in the parts of your brain responsible for decision-making and memory, those branches literally start to wither and shrink. But, and this is key, at the exact same time, in your brain's fear and anxiety center, the amygdala, the branches on those neurons grow. They get bigger, stronger, more interconnected. So your thinking centers get weaker, while your fear center gets stronger.
So yeah, it makes total sense, right? This physical rewiring of your brain leads directly to those classic symptoms of being chronically stressed out. Having trouble focusing? Well, that's your weakened prefrontal cortex. Feeling extra anxious or flying off the handle? That's your supercharged amygdala at work. The biology is the experience.
Okay, but get this. The story goes even deeper than your brain's structure. Stress can actually reach down into the core of your cells and leave a physical mark on your DNA itself.
This all happens through a fascinating process called epigenetics. The name literally means above or on top of genetics. See, it doesn't change the actual letters of your DNA code, but what it does is add these little chemical tags. Think of them like sticky notes onto your DNA. And these sticky notes tell your cells which genes to read and which ones to ignore. They basically change how your genetic blueprint gets used.
And this is where it gets really wild. It means your life experiences, things like poverty, trauma, or abuse, they aren't just memories that live in your head. They can become physical tags on your DNA. Your social world gets translated into your biology, leaving a literal mark on your genome.
One of the main ways this works is through something called DNA methylation. The easiest way to picture it is like a tiny little lock being placed on a gene, which can silence it. Well, stress can add these locks to really important genes, including the very genes that are supposed to regulate your stress response. And this is how a stressful childhood can biologically program someone to have a hair-trigger stress response for the rest of their life.
All right, let's zoom out from the brain and our genes for a second and look at the whole body. Because those same stress hormones, like cortisol, they don't just stay in the brain. When they are constantly floating around at high levels, they start to cause widespread damage throughout all your physical systems.
The main bad guy here is a condition called oxidative stress. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like biological rust. High levels of stress hormones create these unstable molecules that just bounce around inside you, damaging your cells. They literally wear down your body's machinery from the inside out. And check this out.
It shows this absolutely brutal trade-off your body is forced to make. To protect itself from that biological rust, your body activates a special defense pathway. But that same pathway does two other devastating things. One, it slams the brakes on the process of building new bone. And two, it actively starts to dismantle your muscles. So in a desperate attempt to save itself from one problem, the body starts to weaken its own foundation.
Now we've arrived at what is, for me, the most profound and mind-blowing part of this whole story. It's where the impact of stress expands beyond just one person's lifetime and is actually passed down.
So remember those epigenetic sticky notes we talked about? Well, it turns out they can be inherited. Intergenerational inheritance is when a parent's stress directly affects their child's biology. But transgenerational inheritance, that's even more astonishing. That's when the biological echo of a trauma is passed down to the grandkids or even great-grandkids who were never, ever exposed to the original stress at all.
And let me be perfectly clear, this is not just some fringe theory. We have powerful evidence for this. Studies on the children of survivors of the Holocaust and the Rwandan genocide show they can inherit a higher biological sensitivity to stress and PTSD. The trauma of one generation leaves a physical, measurable trace on the next.
All of this brings us to one final, really powerful question. We've seen how stress can physically remodel our brains and rewrite how our genes are expressed. But that very plasticity, that amazing ability to change, might also be our greatest source of hope. Because if the biological wounds of stress can be inherited, is it possible that resilience can also be learned, encoded, and passed on? What would that even look like? That's a question worth thinking about.